Russia seems to have a plan. Its forces control two large areas, one north of Kiev and another pocket to the east. Russia is trying to expand both to strangle the city. But Ukrainian forces are not allowing that to happen, recapturing a key suburb yesterday in a counteroffensive. And they're inflicting heavy Russian losses. A U.S. military official says Russia has now lost 10% of its combat power in Ukraine, and that Russia, anticipating a quick victory, only packed for a short fight.
So let's start off the discussion by saying, first off, I think the piece we're going to discuss is a pretty pro-Russian piece. That does not mean we are pro-Russian.
No.
We've discussed a whole lot of kind of pro-Ukrainian pieces. It doesn't mean we're pro-Ukrainian. I can't speak for IJR, but Joey and I have talked about this a lot of times. We don't feel like there is a good guy in this.
No, except for maybe supporting the right of self-determination.
Yeah,
for the people.
Independence,
the people in these countries can decide what they want.
Whitney starts out asking Johnson, can you explain to me why you think Russia is winning the war in Ukraine? Johnson responds saying, within the first 24 hours of Russia's military operations in Ukraine, all the Ukrainian ground radar intercept capabilities were wiped out. That allowed Russia to essentially establish a de facto no-fly zone. At the same time, Russia's arrival in Kiev, what 90% of the West called Kiev until 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago.
I still often do.
Russia's arrival in Kiev within 3 days of the invasion also caught my attention. I recalled how the Nazis in Operation Barbarossa took 7 weeks to reach Kiev, and they required 7 more weeks to subdue the city. The Nazis had the advantage of not pulling any punches. Well, it doesn't sound like Russia's pulling very many punches either. But Ukraine's ability to launch significant military operations has essentially been eliminated. If their artillery was intact, that column of tanks that we've been talking about that stalled, it would be easy pickings. If they have fixed wing or rotor wing assets, again, would have been super easy pickings. So Johnson's saying, look, I think because of those observations, yeah, it's evident Ukraine's military has been degraded to an incredible extent. But do we buy that? We don't know.
I think that, it's something that you mentioned right before that, is that there is the fog of war.
Yeah.
There is the fact that it is extremely, extremely dangerous for you to be a reporter on the ground there. We've seen
multiple wounded reporters,
and killed. So that it's unclear if all the information that we're getting, which happens in every type of conflict and in other types of breaking news situations where the story that you're getting, the first line, second line is different than in the history books, just because sometimes we don't exactly know all the details right away. And I was looking at these numbers. The numbers are right, that are most recent as of today, that NATO is reporting that there's 15,000 Russian troops dead. That is an extremely large number. But where is NATO getting these numbers? And I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just something to discuss. They are citing Ukraine. They're citing indications from Russia, which is not clear what that means. And that's where they're getting those numbers. So I think that when this is all said and done, things might look very different.
When we were talking before the show, you gave some more context to that 15,000 number. You said that was more than some American losses at some point. What was
more
that?
Than the 20 years more than the service members that were killed over 20 years of U.S. engagement in Afghanistan.
Wow. So in 4 weeks, they've lost more than we lost in 20 years.
It's an unbelievably large number. I'm not saying that it's not true. I mean, it very well may be. It will be. It's just these are significant losses that Russia is being handed to.